I just got through doing caves with my class of 6th graders, and caves is the title of our little story here. They talk about stalactites. Stalactites are icicle-shaped stone formations found on the ceilings of caves. They form from minerals deposited by dripping water. Suppose a stalactite is 10 inches long and grows at a rate of 1/8 inch per decade. How long will it take for it to go to a length of 1 foot? When we get to example 3, we will solve this, okay? Multiplicative inverse. The product of a number and its multiplicative inverse, also known as reciprocal, is 1, okay? They show that in the middle of the page with the notebook section. So from here on out, I'm going to use the word reciprocal, okay? Multiplicative inverse, reciprocal, one and the same. Example 1. Their example is 4/7 x is equal to -12. This problem here is just like something like that, okay? We're saying the product of 4/7 and another number is 12. Just like we're saying the product of 2 and another number is 8. Okay, we're doing the same thing here. Now for the simpler question, the one that is on the right, we can divide by 2 and we find out that x is equal to 4, right? We find out that x is equal to 4. We could have done something else though. We could have multiplied by the inverse of 2, the reciprocal, which is a half. And we would have come up with the same answer, okay? We had a choice. We could have either divided by 2 or multiplied by the reciprocal of 2, right? In fractional problems such as this, we do not have that same choice. Dividing by 4/7 is accomplished always by multiplying by the reciprocal. So we're going to do that. Multiply by 7/4. Multiply by 7/4. On this side, the product is 1, which means 1x. On this side, we're going to throw a handy-dandy 1 underneath there. We're going to do a little cross-canceling. And you should have come up with -21 as your answer. So far, so good? Okay. Moving on to the next page. Let's just say you're faced with an equation that not only includes adding and subtracting, but also possibly multiplying or dividing. That's what you're faced with in example 2. Example 2 has -11/15 x added to 4/5 is equal to 1/3. Okay? This equation is similar to saying 6x plus 2 equals 20. Okay? Same exact kind of equation. Looks ugly because it's fractions, but it's no different. We will subtract and end up with 18. And we can either divide by 6 or multiply by the reciprocal. What's the reciprocal of 6? 1/6. And you will come up with x equaling 3 either way. Okay, either way you'll come up with x equaling 3. Over here, we have to subtract our 4/5, just like we subtracted our 2. But unfortunately, it's not as clean and easy, right? What must we do in order to subtract 4/5 from 1/3? Go ahead. Which is what? 15. Okay. So, 3 times 5, so that makes this one 5/15. Okay? 5/15 because I multiply it by 5/5. 5 times 3, which means we've got to multiply this by 3/3. So look at what we're doing. 5/15 minus 12/15. So that's like adding the opposite. So the result is going to be how many 15ths? Negative 7/15. Very good. Because 5 and negative 12 is negative 7. We added the opposite when we subtracted. That's the definition of subtraction. So negative 7/15 is equivalent to negative 11/15 x. Now, like this one, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. Okay? The reciprocal of negative 11/15 is negative 15/11. How nice. Isn't that pretty? Which gives you 1x on the left equaling, let's cancel our 15s, making them both 1s, a negative 7 times a negative 1, which is a positive 7. And there's your answer. Okay? That is example 2, my friends. Speaking of example 2, let's do checkpoint 2 and then checkpoint 3, okay? So checkpoint 2, let's do this one really quick. I am going to write it the way I like it. 3/4 n minus 20 equals negative 16. I can do that because as long as what's on one side of the equal sign is opposite the other side, it's fine. It doesn't matter which way you write it. Okay? We're going to add 20. And we should have 4 equaling 3/4 n. Am I right? What am I going to do now, people? Multiply by what? 4/3. Not very pretty. N equals 16/3. You could also write 5 and 1/3. Okay? Both of these are acceptable at this stage of the game. Okay. Checkpoint 3. Here's checkpoint number 3, which is negative 2/3 p plus 1/2 equals 5/6. So I have to subtract a half from both sides, right? How about we just spare ourselves the converting and convert it right now, which is 3/6. Am I right? You guys understand what I did? I know that a half is the same as 3/6, and I know in order to perform a subtraction it needs to be converted to 6. So I just made it happen. Okay? Leaves me with 2/6 being equivalent to negative 2/3 multiplied by p. Multiply by the reciprocal, which is negative 3/2. Same thing on the right, negative 3/2. Ooh, lots of cross-canceling, ain't that pretty? So, that becomes a 1, 6 becomes a 2, these become 1s. So we've got a positive times a negative. Will my answer be positive or negative? Negative, so it's negative 1/2. Okay? Negative 1/2. Final thing, we're going to talk about our stalactites. Was it the stalactites? Yes. A stalactite. How long will it take for the stalactite to get to a length of 1 foot? Now, there's actually 2 ways to do it. You can figure out how many eighths it grows per year and then use that number and add it to the total number it's been growing. Or you can write it in an equation. The current length is 10 inches, to which gets added 1/8 inch per decade, x being the variable that represents decade, right? 10 inches plus 1/8 inch per decade equals 12 inches. Because that's how many decades, or that's what we want to find out, is how many decades, or how many years, so that's product multiples of 10, it'll take to get us up to 12 inches. Since this is a positive 10, we're going to subtract it. 1/8 inch times decades equals 2 inches. So we're figuring out now how long it will take to get us up to that next stage. Multiply by 8 over 1, 8 over 1, x equals 16. So how many years is that? Go. 160 years. 160 years. All right? 160 years. If you write 16, you better label it decades. Okay? Because I need to know if you know it's decades or years. Let's look at guided practice number 9. This is the last thing we're going to do. Guided practice number 9. Our friendly neighborhood ants on a picnic table. Ant A travels in a straight line at a speed of 3/4 of an inch per second. Ant B travels in a straight line at a speed of 7/8 inch per second. Which ant will reach the edge first? Distance traveled is equivalent to the rate of travel multiplied by the time taken. Ant A. Ant A is how far from the edge? Does it say? He is 10.5 inches away. 10.5 inches worth of travel is equivalent to his rate. What's his rate of speed? Yep, times time. We don't know how much that is. Okay? Ant B is 11/3 away, and his rate is 7/8 multiplied by the time it takes him to travel. How many seconds will it take? Well, we need to solve for time in both of these equations, which requires us to multiply by the reciprocal here and here. But remember, when you have to deal with a mixed number, it needs to be converted to an improper fraction, as I just did here. Okay? Now we can multiply. Ooh, lucky us. Cross-canceling. Awesome. That becomes a 2. Both of them were divisible by 2. These get cross-canceled as well. So t is equal to how many seconds? 7 times 2? 14, yes. All right. Same thing we got to do here, which will be 91/8 equaling 7/8 t. The reciprocal is what we're going to multiply by. This is reducible by a factor of 8. And you might not realize it, but 91 is reducible as well by a factor of 7. 7 goes into 7 once. 7 goes into 91 13 times. So T for the other ant is 13 seconds. Which ant will reach the edge first? Ant A or ant B? B. Yep. Even though he's further away, he's traveling faster.